death elicits such a strong emotion, and even in the conversation we were having, sometimes we are afraid to open certain boxes because you don't know what's going to happen when you remove the top of whatever emotion it is that you're feeling. And maybe we do it to comfort ourselves. Maybe we use those words to lighten the weight of what's just happened. And it's taken me a while to say, yeah, dying, died, dead. And it's the only way I describe death now. I no longer say passed away, went to be with God, left us. I say died. There's something about knowing that there's a time you'll forget how someone sounded and how someone smelled, right? So like, I lost my aunt, my cousin, my aunt and my uncle between 2014 and 2019, all from the same family, right? The house had a certain smell. My uncle had a certain smell. My uncle had a certain sound. My aunt had a very harsh tone. My brother Victor had a certain way he laughed. And when people die after a while, you forget the smell. Sometimes you forget the sound. And when I think about that, and let me use maybe Cliff and McKenna, if I think about the fact that one day, I'll not be able to smell McKenna. Like, we all have our own distinct smell. Like, si ati watu wananuka vibaya, but just a scent, right? If I think that one day I'll not be able to sniff her, because I sniff her every day, or one day I won't be able to hear Cliff laugh, that shit scares me. And I assume the same for them, you know. And so when I think about that, every day in my family WhatsApp group, I try to tell them, my larger family, now my family of origin, hey guys, it's another day above ground to tell you that I love you. And I hope we'll be all together one day soon. Because my siblings visit in spurts according to work schedules and stuff. And when I think about even my parents, if I think about my parents, and it scares me. And so when I'm with them, I'm with them. If we are making memories, we're making memories. If I'm spending time with you, I'm spending time with you. And in that moment, that's all that matters. Because you can't stop living, you can't stop working, you can't stop your responsibilities, you can't stop any of that. And just so I purpose with intention, when I'm with you, I'm with you. And I'll soak you in for whatever the moment gives. The strongest thing, and the thing that led me to this work, is I don't think we can go through death in silos, right? And if you have a death in your family, you're all grieving, right? So you can support each other the best way you can, but everyone is going through their individual process, their individual pain, their individual grief. And you may not be there to support each other strongly. And let me talk about it even before the loved one is dead, whoever it is that's dying, even before the person is dead. There's anticipatory grief, there's questions, there's fear, there's regret, there's all those emotions, right? That's for the people who are being left behind, right? For the person who's dying, depending on how you've lived, end of life is very hard. End of life is hard for everyone, but I think it's harder depending on how you lived your life. If you have unfinished conversations, or you have matters you haven't closed, or you have messages you want to pass on, or you have people you want to see, or you have regret, I think on either sides, for the person who's dying or the people who are being left behind, it's tough. And I feel like the work of a death doula is to come in ideally before. And when people hear death doula, people think you're just someone who comes in at the end. I think it's important for a death doula to come before, because you facilitate conversation, you manage admin, you plan things, you give people a break to rest, especially if someone is, say, in hospice, whether it's in hospice, in the actual hospice, or they're doing palliative care at home. It gives the family breathing space. It gives the person who is dying someone who's neutral to talk to, and not in a counseling way. I am not a counselor, I am not a doctor, but I can see you and advocate for medical intervention depending on how you're feeling. I can see you and tell your family, today was this kind of day, this is how we are feeling. You know, if I'm to gather information and you don't feel like you want to burden your family or the people you're leaving behind, I can gather information. Or is the information family needs from you, I can step in. So I feel like a doula is just a safe space at the end of life, you know, a neutral person who may not have as strong emotions as everyone else in the room. So you're able to focus on the work that needs to be done, whether it's accompanying the person who's dying or whether it's accompanying the family that's being left behind. If their death is discombobulating, like ujijui, you know, like if you're dying, you don't know yourself. If you're the one being, it's confusing, it's hard, it's painful, it's all those things. And so I feel like the work of a doula is to come in at that moment where the dying person needs someone and the family also needs someone. And then you walk the family and you walk the dying person through that process. And there are instances where you also walk with the family after, because there's clearing to be done, there's things to be given away, there's administrative legal work to be followed up on. And I think that just gives, when the person dies, it gives the grieving family room to actually sit in their grief, instead of being caught up with all this admin work that we always have to do when our loved ones die. And the reason why I feel a doula should come in before the end of life is because then you can gather information that makes managing things after someone has died easier. You know, when I was having the conversation with Adele, I asked her, who gets your drum kit? It's one of your most prized possessions, you know. Who has keys to your house, even for you? If you live alone, who has keys to your house? Your camera. Whose work do you still have that you haven't edited and they'll be coming for you? Who still owes you money? You know. I have a friend, I talk about her all the time, so it's fine. I talk about Steph all the time. I call her my wife. So my wife, and all girls have a wife. If you don't have a wife, find a wife. Lost both her parents in 2020 within a month of each other. And she was also in postpartum. And her father died of cancer. And then her mom died from COVID, because they all got COVID during her dad's funeral. And I think Nadia, I call her Nadia, my firstborn, was not even a year yet. And I've had Stephanie talk to Nadia about the death of her parents. And I really admire, I think it's a personality thing. Steph is very forward. She doesn't use words like passed away, left us. She's like, your grandparents died. And it means you won't see them for now. And she reminds Nadia just how much her grandparents loved her, you know. But kids are funny, because Nadia will say, we can be in the middle of something random and Nadia will say, oh, you know, my grandmother died. And I don't know, when people say the word die or death, not passed away, not we lost them, not God took them, I respect the people who are able to use the word die and someone is dead. There is room to have the conversation with kids about it. I've seen Steph navigate that with Nadia. Whether I have capacity or capability to, I am not sure. I guess because you're only going to have the conversation with the kids if someone has died. But if no one has died, then there's no space to talk to them about death. I think you have to have experienced someone dying, then you're forced to have the conversation. I've never thought about proactively talking to even say my daughter or to Nadia. Nadia knows it, but to even the kids I'm blessed to auntie, and I've never thought about talking to them about death. Very few people die sudden deaths of accidents and all that stuff. So if we'll all die from illness or old age, then there's time to think about death. There's time to plan for it. There's time to think about, like if I think about my partner and my daughter and my wife, there's time to make sure they're armed with everything that they need to manage my affairs if I leave, you know. And there's time for me to let them know every day that I love them, so that if today we left here and I died, I know for sure my family, my partner, my daughter, my Steph, they all know that I love them very much. And I think talking about death, I like the word impermanence. Imagine for real tomorrow. I know we say it and it sounds like, I don't know how to describe it. Tomorrow is not promised.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, we quote it, yeah, we quote it all the time, but do we live truly like tomorrow is not promised? You know, that's why I'm low-key, high-key obsessed with death. I'm in tune with my body, so when something is off with my body physically, I can feel it. Sometimes it's heavy anxiety, but at least I know it's anxiety. I think about death all the time, guys. It's not healthy. It's not healthy, but I do, because then it dictates how I live every day. It dictates what I lend my energy to. It dictates if I want to choose to make an issue with my partner an issue, you know, like this one, I'll just say it's fine, I'll just let it go. Because for real, tomorrow is not promised. But we don't live as if it is. And most of us want to have these death conversations when someone we love is dying or when we are dying. But with my work and all the plans I have around my death work, I want to encourage guys to start thinking, talking, even to your parents. Like, do you have your parents' information? If something happened and your mom died today, would you even know what to do? Would you know where her stuff is? Would you know how she wanted her things to be managed? So even for us guys whose parents are still alive, talking to our parents about their death wishes and gathering as much information as we can about their lives. And I'm not talking even just the recordings like this, where you're having a conversation with your folks about how they met, how they fell in love, you know. So I have very many alarm clocks in my phone. One of them goes off at 6:03. So I have this weird thing for odd and even numbers. I'll never set my alarm clock to an even number. Yeah, so I have 6:03, 6:17, 6:23. So my 6:03 alarm clock is another day you're alive. Remember, you could die. Right? So when it popped, like literally, and that trigger, right, it always signals me to go into the day with a certain type of energy, right? Because anyway, if you knew you were going to die when you left here, you would not have gotten angry at your cab guy, or you would not have not picked up your mom's call, or you'd have called your mom. So all these things. So when I say I think about death, it's all those things. Like today, if I was to die, who are the people I must talk to? Who are the people who must know I love them? What is this project that I must finish? You know, I'm currently writing a book. It's stressing me, but I must finish my book. If my daughter annoyed me during the night because she didn't sleep, but I see that alarm clock, when I walk into her room to get her ready for school, my energy is so different. You know, and to talk, did you have a dream? I have such amazing mornings with my daughter when she's not acting like a cracker. I'm like, just because of that alarm, like I'm so intentional. I've woken up with my daughter every day since she was born, apart from the days I'm on a project or I'm not at home, or I have to leave home early for work. But I've woken up with her every single day. And I say that it is my job as her mom to send her off into the day with the right energy. And I say it's about her, but it's more about me, because I'm like, sis, if I died today, I know I'd have left you knowing. We hung out, we laughed, I loved you, because I tell I love her all the time, it irritates her. I'd have kissed you, would have given me a silly story, I'd have given you a silly story, and then you're off to face the world without me. And hopefully we all make it home at the end of the day, and I can see you again and embrace you and ask, how's your day? Who was kind to you? Who made you laugh? If you're a friend and you claim to be someone's friend, The worst thing you can ask during certain seasons is, please tell me what you need. If you've done that, shame on you, slap yourself. Please tell me what you need is giving the person who's going through a hard time more work than they need. The thing I have learned is you just show up. Just show up. Even when you don't know what to do and you don't know what to say and you don't know what's supposed to be done, just show up. The thing that you're supposed to take care of for that person, it'll find you. But if you don't show up, if you say, tell me what you need, if you avoid, then you don't do your friends justice. And you see, we all want to be in a village, but not all of us want to be villagers, right? And being a villager means you show up in the good, the bad, and the ugly. And my friend Steph says this so well. All of us, in whatever phase of life we're in, we just want someone to bear witness to our lives. Whether we are grieving, whether we are going through joy, whether we are going through whatever it is, you just want and need someone to witness, because then it gives your life meaning. You know what I mean? If you're just doing life, sungeka tu kwa nyumba, right? We would not have met, we would not have had the morning that we've had. And I think it's so important, if you say you love someone and you're someone's friend, it's so important to bear witness to their lives in whatever way life shows up for them. And for me, that's all I know to do for my friends and my family, is just to show up. The thing I need to do, it will find me. But show up, I will show up. We can never be tired of people's grief. It is so unfair to get exhausted or think that people will ever move on from the death of a loved one. You never, ever move on. You learn to cope. You navigate it better because maybe you have the tools and you have the safe space and you have this, but no one ever truly moves on, right? And do we even continue to check on each other after death? You know, like, do you continue to say, hey, Mase, how are you? I thought about you today, you're on my mind. I'm not the best at it, but I really try to remember birthdays and anniversaries and all these things, and I talk to my friends about their loved ones. I talk to my dad about his brother. It's awkward for my family sometimes, but, you know, I don't believe in let the dead be dead. I don't believe it at all, because there's no way someone who is so important in your life, we can't talk about them and we can't remember them and we can't laugh about them or cry about them. So people are allowed to grieve forever, and grief is forever, honestly. To expect anything else is nonsense. It's not easy watching someone die. It truly is not easy. However, it's easier when you know what to expect, because we all die the same, unless like you're hit by a bus or you have a heart attack or it's something sudden. We all die the same. The thing I have witnessed, even through death within my family or within my circle, that process of watching someone die is so uncomfortable, because you want to intervene, you want to do something, you want to make them better. And half the time, if someone is truly at the end of life, that wanting to make them better is for ourselves, to try and extend their lives for us. It's never about them. So when you decenter yourself from the end of someone's life, you respect the process. And I feel like the same way, God is a God of order, right? The same way God gives us pregnancy from an egg into a baby and to this is how you birth, God is also a God of order when it comes to death. There's a certain process the body goes through. The problem I have seen, which is maybe a good or bad thing, I thank God for modern medicine. It serves its purpose. But I feel like we can do a much better job in honoring how God purposed end of life should go. Body sends signals, and if you're open to it, and I guess I know them just because, one, I learned about it in school, and it's shocking that there's actually so many death doula schools out there, but I learned about it in school, and then reflecting backward on the deaths, the people who had been dying, I had been around, and then reflecting forward to now with my knowledge, being around someone who's dying, the stages are the same. So One, they stop to eat. And unfortunately with us, when we feel like someone has stopped to eat and we say food is life, we want to force food down their throats. And it's just your way of your body giving you a peaceful death. We don't really need that much nutrition. You don't really need that much energy. I mean, if you think the fact that people can do how many days fast, right? People do weeks fasting without food and they're fine. So it's water that's usually the issue, right? So if you notice a drop in appetite, internal organs begin giving issues. This is not the physical body, right? So a drop in appetite, color changes. If you're keen to it, smell changes. Beginning of loss of the 5 senses. So mobility reduces, eyesight goes. Sometimes the body fights. So you see agitation in some people. Hearing is always the last to go. So that's why I always encourage talk, play music, talk as much as you can. Don't stop talking to them until they're gone, because hearing is the last to go. A lot of people get end of life visits, which I think is one of the things that gives me the most comfort about death. They are visited, at least for majority of the ones I've experienced, they are visited by someone who has gone before them. And so like for my uncle, when he was dying, my baba, it was not a certain death, it was a slow one. And I remember, then I didn't know, because I went into death doula school after he had died. We were in the room, and he's talking, but he's not talking to me, right? He's talking and he's doing this. And at that point, I thought, I didn't know what was going on, right? He was having all these conversations. And then there were times where he was lucid enough to tell me, get your phone. He had messages for my dad. And I'm so sad that that phone died. I remember it was my Oppo phone. And he would tell me, get your phone and write these things down. And when my dad's nickname, I won't say it here, but he was in that season specifically calling my dad by his nickname and telling me, make sure you tell him this, and make sure you tell him this, and make sure you tell him this. So for those who are blessed, there are moments where they can pass on messages. Or if they want to see a particular person, some people are lucid enough to ask for them. Breathing slows, oxygen drops. It sounds like, for some, it sounds like fluid buildup, like a rattle. Or for some, it's gasps where they're trying to take a deep breath. And then eventually, if you allow them to, then they die. I think I have learned to, and I think about certain deaths in my family where we were so heavy on the medical intervention at the end, where I feel like we robbed them of a dignified death, and a death that just allowed them. Pain is where I draw the line, where it doesn't have to be painful, and there's medical intervention for pain. But for the other processes, it's so uncomfortable watching someone talk to someone who's not there. It's so uncomfortable hearing someone moaning. It's so uncomfortable seeing someone agitated. And then the weirdest thing happens. I call it the surge. People have different names for it. The name I love is the surge. And when you don't understand the stages of dying, you assume the surge means they're getting better, right? But if you all educate each other about what happens to the body when we're dying, then the surge is actually the biggest signal that it's about time, you know. But if you choose to be uncomfortable in that process, then you will leave. You will say, let's feed them, let's give them this medicine, let's do all these things that interfere with the natural process of death. And I've seen that most of the times that intervention is not for them, it's for us, because we don't want them to die. However, from the books I've read about death, the content I've consumed, the movies I've watched, and there's so much information about death out there, especially like in the past, let me say post-COVID, so many people have written about death experiences. There are hospice nurses who've written books. There are doulas who've written books. First, I think having the conversation before grounds you. Of course, when you get the diagnosis, everything can shift, and it's okay for everything to shift. That decision is so personal that you can have the advanced directives before you're sick, and then when you're sick, you can choose to change your mind, and it's okay. If you choose to seek treatment and prolong life, it's okay. If you choose to, you have said this is terminal, and all signs point to, even if I intervene, even if I do this, even if nothing will truly change, then it's okay to just say, actually, it's going to be vibes until I go. There's an article I read, it was actually last week. There's a lady who, and it's something I want to do, she threw a bash. Like, she had a terminal diagnosis. She invited all her loved ones. She threw a bash. Everyone said what they were feeling about her, how they felt about her. They danced, they enjoyed music. And I think she died the following Thursday. And her family were like, actually, there's no need for a funeral because we already had a living funeral. So even I'm a proponent for living funerals. Like, if you have something to tell me, bro, and you better come and tell me. Just come and tell me. Don't wait for me to die. Then you have this long speech you want to say about me, how you felt about me, how I mattered to you, how I changed your life. Just tell me. So I am a proponent for living funerals. If anything ever happens to me and I'm given a terminal diagnosis, I want to throw a bash. Because of my other work, I have access to musicians. I have told them, you must come. You must sing. You must dance. You must do whatever it is you need to do. I want to enjoy music with my friends because that's how I create a lot of memories with my loved ones. I want to enjoy it. I want to take everyone in. And then if I go a month after that, a year after that, 2 years after that, because we plan, and then there's also God. Like, you can say, you can be told, for my uncle, my Baba, we were told he had 6 months to live, and he died within 2 weeks when we discharged him, right? For Cliff's dad, the same. It was assumed that there would be some sort of intervention, and before even the intervention was figured out, he died. So I think it's up to each individual and it's up to each family. I think you arm your family and your loved ones with as much information that would make it an easy decision for them to make. Because if you're at the point where you can't even make the decision yourself, who is your proxy? And for you to have selected someone as your proxy, you must have had a conversation with them. And I think also having conversations with people when we are still well and everything is good is the best gift we can give them, because it removes one other headache from trying to decide in the middle of all the emotion and all the fear and everything. One less thing, because they know this is what Joy wanted and this is how Joy would have wanted things to do. And outside of everything else, that's the thing I'm clear on. One of the rules of Death Doula School, you do not walk into the room with any of your biases. Whether it is your religion, whether it is your opinion, whether it is, none of that matters, because it's not about you. It's absolutely not about you. So the thing about my belief in God and my spirituality is it allows me to be, for example, patient. Right? It allows me to be kind. It allows me to bear long suffering. It allows me to persevere. And then those are the things you walk into the room with. You don't walk into the room of, you're dying because you don't believe and God is not healing you because you're not a believer. I don't believe in it. So actually one of the rules we have is you don't walk in with your religion. You don't walk in with your bias. You walk in with your humanity. You don't walk in with anything else. Because who am I to come and impose my own beliefs on you? You know what I mean? So I don't, and I'm going to say at the end of the life, it doesn't really matter. I don't think my Christianity is any different from anyone else's religious beliefs. I have a friend who's an atheist and is honestly one of the best human beings I've experienced in my life. So I think we all have the thing that grounds us. We all have the thing that keeps us. We all have the thing that levels us and even I don't know how to explain it. And it's different for everyone. And I have no thoughts that either or, its end.
Have you seen it? Have you seen it at play? Like when you say, like in terms of like the visitations or like there, have you been in situations whereby your spirituality has been affirmed? I think that's what I'm trying to say.
For me, I will say, and I don't even think any of my family members know this, when Baba died, I think I had spent so much time with him in the hospital. And because I didn't know then what I know now, when he was being discharged, for me, discharge, and maybe it's a story I told myself, meant he was getting better, right? And only for him to go home at last maybe about 2 weeks or so, and then he died. And I remember going, I was on the way somewhere with Cliff, and I told Cliff, let's go visit him because I won't see him during the weekend, so let's just go and say hi. And in our going to say hi, we found that he had just died a few minutes before that, right? And his death is one of those weird ones because then I did not know how to ask for help. All I saw was my dad needing someone to shikilia him. And I said, I'll shikilia all of you. Give me all your problems. We'll plan the funeral. I'll hold all the information. I know how to navigate cop stations, funeral homes, picked his clothes, took them to Lee, like printed the program, right? Work mode, fix it. I don't know if I cried. It's a panic attack that made me realize grief was, that's what I was telling you, even if you bottle it, it's going to find its way out. But I remember me specifically asking God and being so angry at God that I can't have spent all this time with him in the hospital for me not to have said goodbye. And I felt so angry because I had asked my brother and my sister to come in, and they came in, and I felt like they got to say goodbye because they were going back to where they had come from, right? I didn't get to say goodbye, and I was angry. I'm like, I can't have been with this homie nearly every day for me not to have gotten to say goodbye. Like, it's not fair. This is not how it was supposed to go, right? And I remember even when we were in Shags, and if you've been to a Luo funeral, you know we are beautifully hectic. And my Baba was so well respected in our community. He is like the father of our whole family. And it was a big funeral, and there were politicians, and so I just felt that from the moment he died, all I had was noise, right? From the planning to the meetings. And then as Jangos, we overplan, we overtalk. I'm sorry, my people, it's too much, right? We overplan, we overtalk, I remember us going to Shags by road. I remember all that. I remember him being put outside his home. I remember the guys at home. It was just too much noise. And I was so angry that there were so many quiet moments I had with him before he died, but I didn't have it with him when he was dying, right? And I remember it was so weird. The Django and me came out when they were shifting him now for us to go to to bury him. And they were shutting the casket. I lost it. I was like, please, please, like, please let me say bye. Please let me say bye. Because without knowing, I had been so busy planning and doing all these things. It's like I never, even no matter how many times I went and saw him at Lee, it just didn't feel like I got to say goodbye. And I remember when we buried him, everyone left. And I was standing there with my friend Wago. And it was like, it's bad also. I feel like it's so bad. Maze, hanging it out kidogo after you've put someone in the ground. Like literally we buried him and this place was empty. And I stayed. I stayed because, so people bury differently. So there are guys who will do the mabati, allow you to put flowers. And then so like for him, we had done the mabati, everyone placed their flowers. And then now they were removing the flowers to fill the grave. And then now cement and everything. And Wago stayed with me. And Wago and my in-laws, when everyone had gone, they stayed there with me as the grave was being filled, as they were cementing. And in that process, first, I'm convinced he visited me because I asked him to. And I remember While they were cementing, there were some insects flying above the grave. And it was specifically only above his grave. And that was the reason why I didn't leave until they finished. And when they finished cementing, we went to hang out with my cousins. Everyone came back to Nairobi after a while. And I specifically remember telling God, please, please allow Baba to visit me in my dreams. Please allow him to visit me in my dreams. Please allow him to visit me in my dreams. And I remember a year before the first anniversary of his death, because he died October 15th. I think it was October 11th, he came to me in a dream. And I feel like it's only God that would have answered that prayer. And it wasn't a dream where I just remembered him saying anything specific or doing anything specific for me or with me, but he showed up. And I don't remember what conversation we had, but we had a sort of conversation, like a closing conversation, and then he left. And I remember waking up the following morning saying, thank you, God, for answering my prayer, because now I can let him go, because I hadn't let him go. I did not sit in your hospital room for you to die in this way without me saying goodbye. And he came and he said goodbye to me. And I've never talked to anyone about this. But I begged God, I used to plead, God, please let him come and say bye to me. And when he came and he said bye to me, I feel like it solidified my relationship with God, because I felt like he had me. It gave me peace. I feel like physically, I let him go. I stopped carrying him, because in the year after his death, that death was the reason for most of my panic attacks. And they released me after that. I did not have, the rest now I had postpartum, but I did not have any more panic attacks. I did not have insomnia. I did not have sleepless nights. A peace just came over me after he visited me. And for God, I think sometimes when a lot of people will tell you when you're doing death work, you're calling death upon yourself or death upon the people who are close to you, I always have a conversation with God saying, you did not put this calling in my life for me to call death upon myself or death upon the people that I love. You put this calling into my life for me to be a source of comfort. And so whatever it is, I need to be a source of comfort, shine a light on me or shine a light on them. Let us find each other and let me do the work I'm supposed to do for them. Because I feel like even my death work is in glory for God. You know what I mean? It's not an easy thing. It's not, I don't even know how to describe it, but if it is for me to give comfort, and if it is for me to provide order, and it is for me to be a source of calm when everything is chaotic around people, then so be it. If it's for me to trigger a conversation, so be it. If it's for me to, maybe you don't have anyone else to talk to, slide in my DMs. I'll give you my number. I'm happy to talk to people. I'll be doing something called a Death Cafe, where I want to bring all of us who don't know what to do with all these thoughts we have about death and questions. And it's not a place for answers. It's not grief counseling. I'm not a counselor. I don't know medically how to support people psychologically, but we can create safe spaces for ourselves. We can have these conversations. We can ask questions. We can answer some of them. We can leave them as questions. I don't know. But I just feel so strongly that we need to have these spaces. And I'm happy to be one of the people working in this space where people can talk about death, can ask questions, can share their feelings in a way that no one is judging you. No one is trying to correct your feelings or tell you how death should show up for you or feelings about death should be. No one is telling you it is well. No one is telling you you're scared because you're an unbeliever. It's just a space where we just are the way we are. And when we finish, we leave each other with something until the next time we meet again.